So good evening, everyone. It is April 26th, and this is the meeting of the Municipal Heritage Committee. I'm going to start by reading the land acknowledgement statement for the town of Smith Falls. On April 26, 2023, we acknowledge that the sacred land on which Smith Falls is now located has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years and is rich in Indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation. We are grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and water in order that we might be here today. We are also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in making of the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smith Falls. We are mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with our relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, drawing on the strength of our mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, being mindful of generations to come. So the first item of business is the appointment of a chair. Do I have any nominations for a chair? Lorraine?
Yes, I nominate Dorothy Hudson to continue. She's done an amazing job as our chair. And I think right now with the number of new things that we're trying to negotiate our way through, we need that static, that complete pick up where we left off kind of attitude with all the things we're working on. So that would be my nomination. And I believe she's agreed to continue because I've chatted with her about it.
Perfect. Dorothy, can you confirm that before I ask for a seconder?
Well, we did chat about it, and I did indicate that I would prefer to step down if there was somebody else who was willing to do it. But on the other hand, if not, I would agree to continue. There may be a person who really, really wants to be the chair. I've been the chair for 10 years. So that's my response to that at this point.
Klaus?
Yeah, thank you. I would be great if Mary would, Dorothy would continue chair. What I would suggest is I would like to volunteer myself to be a co-chair and learn from Dorothy how to be a chair and maybe continue on next year. If Dorothy would be willing to do it for 1 year and then train me to take that position the following year. So is there a position for a vice chair or just a chair?
There is a position for a vice chair. That would be the next item on the agenda.
Oh, okay. So that's my suggestion. So, but I'd love it if Dorothy would continue and I can learn from her.
Well, in that case, I'll accept I'll accept the recommendation, but I assume people still have to vote.
Yes.
Okay, is there any other nominations? Okay, then can I ask for a seconder for Dorothy Hudson as chair of the MHC? Seconder is Mary Ann Gibson. All in favor? Thank you. Dorothy, you may take over the meeting.
Well, then my first job would be appointment of a vice chair. So I will nominate Klaus. Am I saying your name right, Klaus?
Yes, that's correct, Dorothy. Thank you.
To be the vice chair. If somebody would second that. Would someone second that motion? Mary Ann, thank you. All in favor? Okay, thank you very much. Passed. I appreciate your offer, and I'm happy to continue, but there may come a point during the 5 years when I would like to step down. So knowing that you would be prepared to take over as chair, even if the 4 years weren't out, that's encouraging for me. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Next item is approval of the agenda. I assume that we're going to add to the agenda the proposed sign bylaw. Correct, Mary?
I was going to make that suggestion, yes.
So that can be priority issue number 3. And I also, when we come to the work planning, can I assume we're going to have a budget figure so that we know? Would we have that this time, Mary?
The budget figure, I can tell you what staff put in. Unfortunately, most staff have not received a copy of the final budget yet. I have been asking, but as soon as I do have the finalized, then yes, I can let you know what staff requested.
Okay, thank you. Any other additions to the agenda? Okay, hearing none. Would someone move that we approve the agenda, please? Lorraine and a seconder, class, thank you. All in favor? Great, passed. Moving on, disclosure of monetary interest, anyone? Okay, so we'll go right ahead to the priority issues then. The first one is the MHC visioning statement for this 4-year term. And you put that on there, Mary, so I'll turn it over to you.
Sorry, I'm just going to ask Senior Planner Granke, would you like me to speak to this or would you like to?
Yes, please. You can go ahead, Mary. I think you have the you have the document. So
Perfect. Just with respect to Tony, Carl, do you think you could get in touch with him?
you have could you text me his phone number?
He's
yes,
still
when I'm
telling
done
me
this portion.
he can't get on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how to fix that for him.
Okay, so just I'm going to start this and then I'm going to see what I can do to help Tony. So the last term of the MHC, this was actually before my employment, the Municipal Heritage Committee created a visioning statement for their term. So that was the term from 2018 to 2022. We actually included at the bottom of our agendas package. So the current one is the Smiths Falls Municipal Heritage Committee is committed to the identification and preservation of buildings, structures, features, and lands that are of cultural and or historical value or interest, and to initiating and promoting a conservation ethic and climate of responsible stewardship of the community's cultural heritage assets. So I guess the question on the table is if the committee would like to see that amended, if they would like to come up with an entire new visioning statement for this term. The world is your oyster on this one, so I'll let the committee discuss.
Lorraine?
The only thing I might add to it, I mean, it pretty much says everything. I might add that just that the Smiths Falls Municipal Heritage Committee wishes to continue to be committed to, rather than, because it implies that, to me, implies that we've been working really hard at it already for the last few years. So because if we haven't changed it, the wording of it.
Class?
Yes, thank you, Dorothy. I would agree with Lorraine. Like, it's been in place for a number of years and has been working quite well, I presume. My question is, why change it? Unless there's something pressing that we need to add to it.
I'm wondering if we should be including anything about public awareness or education. Would
Yeah,
that be part of our,
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Carl?
Yes, thank you, Dorothy. This is that is included on your mandate in the terms of reference, the public component. So certainly that would be in order.
Jenny?
I was just wondering if there was the need, the very last line that says stewardship of the community's cultural heritage assets. Could we take out cultural and just put heritage assets? Was there a reason that that was in? It seems pretty specific. If we just have heritage assets, it kind of encompasses everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But culture,
Marianne, go ahead.
culture is also referred to at the beginning of the statement.
Yeah.
I think it's important to put that in. Sometimes it's the culture itself of a building, or place, or something more so than the building or the place that's important.
Any further comments? Mary, would you mind very much reading it one more time?
Absolutely. So the current statement says, the Smiths Falls Municipal Heritage Committee is committed to the identification and preservation of buildings, structures, features, and lands that are of cultural and/or historical value or interest, and to initiating and promoting a conservation ethic and climate of responsible stewardship of the community's cultural heritage assets.
Okay, thank you. Were you wanting us to vote on this?
If there's any changes to the statement, I'd prefer the committee to vote on it, yes.
So have we actually changed it?
I have a
Sure.
suggestion here from Lorraine that that the beginning be changed to the Smiths Falls Municipal Heritage Committee is committed to continuing the identification and preservation of buildings. Is that correct, Lorraine?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then the other suggestion was the removal of cultural, but Mary Ann felt that it was important to leave that in.
So I would suggest we follow both of those suggestions. And I think it is a good idea to have continuing in there, because we've already, as Lorraine said, we've already done a lot of that, but we wish to continue with it. So how do people feel about those two changes? Carl?
There was discussion on including an educational, a promotional and advocacy aspect to the vision as well. Would the committee like to add that to the text?
I thought when you indicated that it was in our mandate that was probably sufficient. So
Okay, yeah, it's certainly, it is in your mandate. That would
yeah, it is
change
in the
your mandate. I think it just, the expression of the vision statement is kind of a guiding principle. This is what we do, and kind of it's just a friendly reminder all along there. So certainly, I think
public education is sort of some of how we do it, most likely.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. So if we include Lorraine's suggested wording and we don't change the reference to cultural heritage at the end, is everybody okay with that? Do you want us to have a motion or just a informal agreement?
If you don't mind, just a motion to make it formal.
Okay, class moves.
Yes, I'll make the motion to make the necessary changes that have been suggested.
And a seconder? Mary Ann, thank you. All in favor? Okay, that motion is passed. The next item is the 2023 work planning. So this is where I guess we get to decide what our main priority is and how much we think we can tackle during the course of what's left of this year. And also what we're going to, whether we're going to have a symposium. That would be an item certainly to consider. So Mary, did you want to say anything about it, or Carl, before we?
Well, you did ask at the beginning about budget. Staff did request a $10,000 allotment to the Municipal Heritage Committee for 2023. I do understand that the budget's been passed, but unfortunately haven't received the final, but no changes to that request have been communicated to me. So I'll just start with that.
And is that the total, or is there some left over?
There was none left over after last year following the bylaw update.
Okay. All right, thank you. Lorraine?
You're muted, Lorraine.
I'm sorry. I'm in my husband's tax office. That's why I have to keep you on and off because I don't want you to be interrupted. The work plan, are you wanting us to give suggestions of things we'd like to be working on? Or, because one of the things that I think that this committee has started that was very well appreciated was the symposium. And it needs to be started now if we're going to be doing it I mean, it takes a lot of prep. And one of the things that we talked about, having speakers there that are going to help us convince our citizens that own heritage buildings and homes to want to identify them, because that's one of the hurdles we've had to face over the years. And hopefully speakers that could talk to them about how important that is and how, you know, it's not going to interfere with the things that they sometimes feel are going to happen. That to me would be a worthy thing to continue. Just my thought.
We haven't had a symposium since before the pandemic, have we?
No, because we didn't think we could
That's right.
with COVID.
Would someone else like to comment on the symposium, class? Go
On the
ahead.
symposium, how large would this be? Like, how many people we involved in this, and how many guest speakers do you think you need?
Well, we usually have a theme. In the past, we've had a theme with probably between 3 and 4 speakers. And we fill the theater. We've always held it at Station Theater, and we usually have pretty well filled that theater, or a good number.
Go ahead.
The reason I say, like, as most of you know, I'm on the Atlantic County Archives Committee, and they have brought in different archivists as guest speakers. There was a gentleman came in and spoke about the antiques behind photography way back, which was quite interesting. And it doesn't deal with buildings, but it deals with heritage photographs and so on. I've got connections there that we can get in touch with some guest speakers from the archives committees, the Ottawa Archives, and you know, our chairperson is quite involved with the archives in Ottawa and so on. So it might be a little bit of a different twist to it.
And how, go ahead, Mary Ann.
Oh, I just wanted to say, in so many years prior to COVID, I know that we had certainly looked forward to the symposium. It was always really well presented, and it was a really good day. Just want to give you those kudos.
Thank you. And Chris, you have a comment?
Yeah, thanks, Dorothy. I'd really like to see the symposium come back. I think from the council perspective, there's, you know, we're still talking about the Heritage Conservation District stuff. And I think there's a real education gap that we need to bridge, just with the facts and myths and getting people just kind of building on what Lorraine's saying about comfortable with the properties, but also comfortable with getting a Heritage Conservation District in town. So something along that I think would be really good for the community this fall.
Well, with no further ado, then we could form a symposium committee. Because as Lorraine said, we need to get started on it right away. So who would volunteer to, what would we have, Mary? 3 people? Or does it matter?
I could check the terms of reference real quick, but I do believe 3 people is fine.
Yeah, I think you said a minimum of 3. We could have more.
That's correct. So you can have more, yes.
All right. So who would like to participate in that committee? Lorraine and Klaas and Mary Ann? Great.
Jenny had her hand up too.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you.
Jenny had her hand, yes.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much. So you can among yourselves decide when to meet then, I assume, and get back to us at our next meeting about ideas. That's wonderful. Thank you. So yes, Klaas.
Would we be able to meet in person, this small little group?
Yes.
Good.
It's not it's not a formal meeting that is broadcast to the public. It's a subgroup of our MHC that can meet and discuss things and report back to us. Correct?
Yeah.
Correct. Okay.
Okay. Sorry, Dorothy, just one more. There's lots of buildings I look after that have meeting rooms that I can provide a meeting room any time people are available.
Sure, I mean, you can decide as a committee where you're going to meet, if you can just, converse with each other via email. We have met at people's houses before too, so.
Yeah, I'm
that's-
happy. My dining room table works really well.
Yeah,
Okay, I just
I
didn't
provide
want to
tea.
involve in someone's personal residence and that. I mean,
yeah,
you know, Lorraine, I got lots of spaces that I work in.
okay, good. And Mary Ann, did you want to say something?
I'm going to learn tea.
Okay, so we've agreed the symposium is important, and what about the HCD? How are we going to proceed with that? What is it that the MHC needs to do in order to, if anything, in order to get that rolling? I guess I'm asking Carl, maybe?
Yes, thank you, Dorothy. So the Heritage Conservation District study, I believe, is one of the draft strategic priorities that have been presented on the strategic plan that we're working on and planning to present to council for adoption in the next couple of in the next month or so. So in the next week, I think within the next week or so, senior staff will be meeting to look at these plans and develop an implementation strategy for who's doing what and what comes first. But I'd expect that within the next couple of months, planning staff will present a work plan and a scope just for the committee's consideration and update as to how we're going to be tackling this project.
Thank you, that's great. That's good to know. And is there anything that there really is nothing that we are required to do at this point then, am I correct? We've done our preliminary work.
Yes, at this stage, we have the direction and enthusiasm from the Municipal Heritage Committee that this is something that you want to achieve, and certainly that is on record at the council table. So we will take it from there. There isn't anything we need from you immediately, but certainly we will be relying on your direction and advice as this unfolds.
Thank you. So what else should we include in the work plan? Does anyone have any other suggestions? Mary Ann?
No, I just want to ask, is there anywhere I can access minutes or something from like last, so I can catch up a little?
I can supply you with those, Mary Ann.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you.
Lorraine, did you want to?
Yeah, I was going to suggest our sign, like, you know how we started putting up signs all around town and updating those things. We never really finished it. And for the last 2 years, we haven't really been doing that. So that might be something that we should continue doing.
Do you mean the pedestals?
Yes.
Historic pedestals? Yeah.
Mhm.
Tony?
Some of those needs to be replaced too. There's some been broken and there's some misinformation on a couple of them. It'd be a good chance to change them. And can we do a list of what other places we should have these pedestals as well?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Class?
Thank you, Dorothy. Where are the pedestals stored, Tony?
Where are they stored? They're up.
They're on site.
They're on site now.
They're on site, okay.
They're all around town.
With the exception of a couple of them that have been broken, there's some need to be replaced and some have been, they get a little bit of vandalism, but they're pretty hardy.
Yeah.
The frost and wood plant clause is one, for instance, when you're looking over at where it used to be, there's a,
Okay,
that's the sort of sign we're talking about. They're recognizing the past history of important things, or a building like the house of Dr. Cranes has one.
Right.
Those are just two examples, but that's what we're talking about.
Mhm.
okay.
The town hall has one too, or central school, both of them.
Is there one on Chamber Street, Arnold Goff's house, stone house
No.
there?
No, there's no pedestal there, but it does have a heritage plaque.
Okay,
I believe it has a it's a designated heritage building.
Yes,
I'm
yes.
Sure,
I
it
knew
has a
that.
plaque. Yeah. So the
We
plaques
perhaps-
are different from the pedestals. Tony?
Could we perhaps prepare a list of where we think maybe some of them should go in the future?
Yes.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Mary Ann?
We have a list of where they are.
Yes, we
must.
do.
We do. Yes, we do.
I
Yes,
can
I-
circulate that for the committee's information.
Thank you. And one more thing, speaking of Frost and Wood, just as another side, I'm sorry to, if you ever want to touch a piece of Frost and Wood, come to St. Church, and all the wood paneling around the altar is from the boardroom of Frost and Wood.
At which church? I didn't catch that.
At St. Bede and Nolan Corners.
Okay.
I still didn't hear you.
Oh, maybe it's my phone. I don't know. It's St. Bede's. Wait.
St. Bede's.
Yeah.
St. Beans in Nolan's Corners.
Yeah.
Oh, Nolan's Corners, okay.
And there's brick from Frost and Wood there as well.
What I'd like to suggest is that we have a different subcommittee, could have some of the same people, to review the municipal register, which Mary provided to us earlier, not just recently, but the week before perhaps. There were a total of 47 properties on this list. Many of them are in the part of the downtown that would be covered by a heritage conservation district, assuming that we have one in the end. Some of them are not. We were informed at that training session that the properties of interest can only remain on this list for a period of 2 years, which started this January. And when that expires, they are no longer properties of interest. They are no longer protected in any way. So I would like to have another committee which looks carefully at this list and then recommends to the MHC whether or not we should be pursuing designation on any of those listed properties.
That's a good idea.
Mhm.
Carl?
Yes, and thank you, Dorothy. And I think further to that, the list of properties that the committee is going to be recommending to council will come accompanied with a budgetary impact. So certainly, any sort of background work that we can do in terms of researching proposed designation bylaws would be helpful. But we expect that we will be reaching out to a consultant similar to what we've done in the past to propose draft bylaws for council's consideration. So depending on the number of properties the committee would be looking to designate, we will be making a proposal to council for the 2024 budget to look at funding that. So my recommendation to the committee is that that you finalize the list of properties you wish to recommend designation by September or October, so we can incorporate that early into the budget process.
Okay, good. That's good news. So we perhaps don't need to meet in May, but we should be looking at that fairly soon. Is there anyone who's interested in that, pursuing that in a subcommittee? Tony is?
I am.
And Mary Ann. Okay, thanks. And I will too. So there'll be 3 of us doing that. That's great. And is there anything else? Probably enough for 1 year, but is there anything else anyone wants to suggest? Chris?
Maybe we don't need it in here, but just some of that stuff we were doing for awareness for the Heritage Week and for the kids, all that stuff was always well received. And I don't know if that's a big enough thing to put into this, but it'd be good to have a placeholder for it.
That would be Heritage Week of 2024, correct? Would it?
Yeah, like, are we talking a 3-year plan here? Are we talking just the next 12 months kind of thing, or?
I think we're talking about this year, but isn't it in February?
Yes, it is, Dorothy.
So we would probably need to start talking about it before January anyway, so it could be part of this year's plan. Tony, did you have a suggestion? I thought you had your,
The plaques, we were talking about, you know, incorporating more plaques around town. Could we make that also kind of a subcommittee of our subcommittee?
yes, well, yes, good, yeah, you pedestals,
Yeah, the pedestal.
pedestals,
Yeah,
sure, we
the
could.
Yeah.
Right.
That would be fine.
Hmm.
It's fine with everybody else. I shouldn't assume. Mary?
You're the
Go
boss,
ahead.
you can
Sorry,
assume.
just with respect to the pedestals, when I did some research on that, if some of the members who are returning may recall that our summer student last year did an inventory of the pedestals around town, because there, as Tony noticed, there is some damage to some of them. So when we did that little bit of research, what we did find was that was initially an initiative done by the Heritage House Museum, which now falls under economic development. So if the committee could maybe give me till next month, and we can pencil this as an item next month so that I can talk to the manager of economic and development tourism first. Just to make
Just-
sure we're not stepping on any toes in case they were considering that as part of their budget.
Tony?
I think that's our toes that are being stepped on because we paid for them out of our budget.
There you go, Tony.
Right, we did, didn't we? That's true.
I don't, I don't have my steel toe boots on tonight, so don't step on them.
Where one?
Chris?
Yeah, if economic development will pay for them and we can figure out what's on them, that sounds good. But we've got designated properties that need plaques. So
Yes,
depending
we
if
do.
we want to allocate the budget, we should try to do some plaque unveilings and promote those buildings that are getting new plaques.
Right. Do we know how many there are? I mean, there's historic information on which designated properties don't have a plaque on and should have a plaque. And there were plaques somewhere in a box at some point. But nothing has happened. For example, Becky Allen's house has been designated for a while, but I don't believe it has a plaque. And there could be others. So perhaps we need in addition to the inventory of pedestals, maybe we need an inventory of the designated properties and whether or not they have a plaque on them. Right? Because plaques cost money and we've got a budget, and if we're going to put some more on, we would need to get them ordered in a timely manner, wouldn't we?
Mhm.
Tony?
On that, is Carl back operating at the foundry in Merrickville? Because I have yet to see him open since the pandemic.
Yeah. I don't think the foundry has been open in a long time.
I know she was ill, but I've been looking for Carl to be open, but going by, I've not seen him open yet.
No.
So we may be looking for another place to get our plaques done.
If I may, Dorothy, I don't believe Carl reopened. I'm in America quite often and I don't see any action there at all.
Okay, do we have any further discussion about the work planning? Jenny?
Sorry to backtrack a little bit, just to Councilor McGuire's point about some of those additional activities that we've been doing. They've historically been done around Heritage Week, but I don't think that has to be the case. So I think it's important to keep those in the 2023 plan. Like we could plan something to go hand in hand with the symposium to kind of raise awareness for that. So I think there's other options.
Right, and having it in the warmer weather would probably, if it was something that took place outdoors, would be a good idea, wouldn't it? Yeah, okay, so we have that in there for this year, definitely then. Okay, any further discussion? We don't have to vote on that one, do we? No, okay. So we move on then to the proposed sign bylaw.
Would you like me to speak to that, Dorothy?
Please.
Sure. So this was something that was talked about with the committee back in 2019 when we had initially commenced this project. Unfortunately, just a little bit of looking at the committee's newest terms of reference versus their older terms of reference, the committee has more of a mandate to review this now than they did back from 2019 to 2022. So council Grace made the correct decision on Monday evening that this is definitely within the committee's mandate and that they've asked that this item be deferred at their level and pending MHC consultation. So when we did speak to the committee back in 2019, there was a couple of key points that the committee made. We did consult them more about the downtown because of the amount of heritage within our downtown area. So the comments we received was that the committee would like to see more swinging signs. I believe that what was meant was projecting signs that project out from the building face at 90 degrees. More wood carved signs, which staff took as more high quality signage, as well as less backlit signs. So those sign boxes with the plexiglass insert and the fluorescent lighting in behind to illuminate the sign. But generally speaking, those were consistent with the downtown core design guidelines. So staff kind of took that route and we added some provisions to the bylaw that we're hoping that the committee can endorse. I did include the link to council's meeting package for Monday, April 24th, because I had the full sign bylaw package there. It is kind of a lengthy bylaw because it's got a lot more detail than the last one. And it's an accessible format, so it takes up a lot more space. But anyways, so heritage designated properties, we do have provisions under administration that now provide for the fact that sometimes installation of a sign is considered an alteration under the Ontario Heritage Act. A good example would be Town Hall and the Welcome Center. The brown limestone on our exteriors are a designated heritage attribute under our new bylaws. So if I were to get an application for an install of a sign that suggests that they would to disturb, alter, change any of the existing stone on these buildings through that sign permit application, staff can say that that's an alteration in accordance with the Ontario Heritage Act, and that would trigger the requirement to go through a heritage alteration process. So there is minimum requirements under a new OREG that was just adopted in 2021 that would need to be submitted for the committee's consideration to determine whether or not that alteration is appropriate. But we did add that provision in there. The good news is about this is because we updated so many of our bylaws, the heritage attributes are clearly outlined in the new bylaws. So we're able to determine at the staff level whether or not a sign is really posing an alteration or not, affecting any detailing that's listed as a heritage attribute. So that is one very good heritage sympathetic change that was made to that bylaw. There's also some provisions in there that promote high quality signage. So we did propose downtown core specific provisions. This is similar to what the town of Perth is doing. Now, we're not Perth. We won't pretend we are, but what I heard in some of my feedback from other areas of town is that we wanted to see more emphasis on regulating sign design in the downtown core area. And town of Perth is one of the few people in the province of Ontario that do that. So I did take a look at theirs and try to model what they do in their bylaw, but using our design guidelines. So a couple of things in there. So one, synthetic materials would not be permitted for signage. So things like plexiglass and sheet plastic. So that would give us more high quality signage that the committee is looking for. We've also said that luminous signs and mural signs are not permitted in the downtown core. So luminous signs in the sign bylaw are backlit signs, basically. So those sign boxes that we see quite often. So where those signs would be allowed to remain upon adoption of the bylaw, what that will do is create a gradual change over time. As signs change, the new provisions would be applied. Mural signs are new. People basically are painting their signs right onto the building face. So we've also prohibited those in the downtown core because painting a brick and stone is not a best practice for heritage preservation. And it avoids low quality signage that is difficult to maintain because paint does require regular upkeep and maintenance. So in terms of projecting signs, the committee wanted to see more of these. We've done the best. So this existing bylaw allows these as of right. It doesn't limit the amount that a building's allowed to have, so they could overcrowd a facade with it, I guess, if they wanted to. What we did manage to do is work with Public Works in order to lower the requirements. So right now, the bylaw requires a projecting sign to be 3 meters above the grade of a building. So we worked with Public Works to reduce that to 2.6 meters. So that's a difference from 10 feet to about 8.5 feet. So it does create a little bit more of a pedestrian friendly environment and a better experience, as well as it gives a little bit more placemaking, right? So the last item I highlighted for the committee's attention was a little bit more of heritage sympathetic design, things like avoiding overcrowding of facades with signage. So firstly, businesses within the downtown core are limited to one sign classified as an awning sign, fascia sign, or a canopy sign. So they would be allowed to have a projecting sign as well, but it would limit so that they're not having several awnings or several fascias or several canopy signs. And then signs within the downtown core are not permitted to obstruct or interfere with any architectural detailing on a building face. So that was a nice little change that we added. And then because window signs are a more modern type of signage that we're seeing, and as many of you know, they tend to get quite large and draw a lot of attention. Although they're not required to obtain a permit, they're only required not to obtain a permit if they don't cover any more than 50% of the window space. Otherwise, a permit would be obtained and we would have to go through the process of likely some kind of exception process to allow them to be bigger and fill up more of the window. So I've highlighted those. I wanted to highlight these because they seem to be the most heritage focused items within the bylaw that would affect properties of interest or designated properties in the downtown core specifically, but also that one administrative item about signs potentially being an alteration in accordance with the act and may require permission. That's a catch-all that applies everywhere. But I wanted to highlight these for the committee's consideration because otherwise the sign bylaw is kind of lengthy and we were asked to accommodate a little bit of a review last minute. So I wanted to try to highlight these for you for your convenience, but I welcome any feedback and I look forward to hearing from you.
Tony.
Yeah, Mary, is there any initiative from the town, DBA, or the chamber to maybe promote replacing some of the tacky signage we have downtown now? Like the backlit signs, is there any deals or to help maybe move away from some of the signage we presently have?
So what I will say, Tony, is that the town has a Smith Falls Community Improvement Plan. Under the Community Improvement Plan, facade improvements, including replacement signage, that is supported through the Community Improvement Plan, and the town offers 50% up to a maximum $10,000. So high quality signage is sought through that already. It's something that's been done in previous years and it continues to be done. So yes, that would be
That's
the
great.
incentive.
Mary Ann?
Yes, now for some of the newer buildings in the downtown, some of the hills, can they still put whatever sign they want, or do they have to abide by this as well?
If they are within the downtown core, as prescribed by the official plan, then they would have to abide by this as well. And if they do not wish to abide by it, then they would have to apply for an exception process, which can be done at a staff level, but certain criteria and a proposal has to be met, has to be given to staff and submitted on why the different material or the different type of sign is appropriate for the age and style of the building.
Okay, thank you.
Chris?
Thanks, Dorothy. No, it's great to see the sign bylaw. It's a lot of positive changes in here. And I'm wondering what's the boundaries of the downtown area we're talking about?
So I can provide them for you, but what I will say is that basically Schedule A of the official plan has a designated area that is called the downtown core. So it would be in accordance with what the downtown core designation is in accordance with the official plan, and I'm happy to provide a copy of that map for the committee.
Carl, did you want to comment?
You're muted, Carl.
Yes, thank you. I'm just with the committee's permission, I can share a screen that just shows the boundaries of the OP designation.
Good.
Yeah, I'm good.
Just give me one moment here. I should have mastered this by now.
Mhm.
Can everybody see my map?
Not yet.
Oh,
Oh,
There.
we are.
yeah. So the brown area on the screen here, that is the downtown core designation of the official plan. So that's where those special policies would apply.
There's nothing across the water, right, Carl? It's just that area?
That's correct. So the community improvement plan project area has covers some of the lands across the water, and there's a special sort of hybrid OP designation along Lombard Street, but the actual plan designation is entirely north of the river. So as the committee can see, that includes both the obviously the spine of Beckwith Street, as well as some of the off and some of the exclusively commercial areas within sort of that first block from Beckwith, but also some of the shoulder areas that included mixes of commercial and residential development.
Beyond Elmsley Street, Carl, past Glen Avenue and so forth, not quite all on the screen. Is that including a heritage designation of Blair Funeral Home?
So Blair and Son Funeral Home is within the downtown core designation. It's the very last property on it.
Right, okay, that's be that 112. Okay, thank you.
So yeah, that boundary looks good for now. I think if we do get the Heritage Conservation District area finalized and approved, maybe that would be a good time to just do a minor amendment on the sign bylaw, but knowing that could be, you know, a year or two away. It wouldn't be hard to make that modification, would it, in the future?
Carl?
Yes, in terms of amending the sign bylaw, that's something that can happen very quickly. We bring a report to council and council can approve it. There isn't it's a bylaw under the Municipal Act, so there isn't a formal or substantial process on that. It's not uncommon that we do housekeeping amendments to bylaws as situations change or as other related policies evolve.
Great. My other question was on the we've got a lot of those vinyl awnings downtown, and the print's always peeling off them. With this new sign bylaw, will putting new print on those count as a new sign, or will it only be when they finally take the actual vinyl or the plastic that it's getting stuck to off?
So it's unfortunately, it's only upon removal or modification of the sign, but if they are removing the existing vinyl and putting on new vinyl, then that is considered a modification, and they would be subject to the new requirements, and vinyl would be considered a synthetic material and would not be permitted.
Okay, thanks.
Any other comments about the proposed sign bylaw? So are you looking for us to say something official about this?
I would appreciate it. It would help me in my communications back to council.
Okay, so a motion then? Someone like to suggest a motion? Class?
Yes, I would suggest a motion, Chair.
What would you like it to say?
Oh, sorry. Let me finish. To accept the signed bylaw as printed on our email here.
Okay, and a seconder for that motion? Tony?
Yes.
Further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Great, thank you. Well, that concludes the formal business of our meeting. The next item is roundtable. So I'm really going to go around this time, starting with Jenny. Do you have anything, Jenny?
I don't think I do. Just nice to see everybody.
Lorraine?
You're muted, Lorraine.
So sorry. I don't have anything that pertains to what we've been talking about, but I like to think of it as a heritage event. It's going to be held again. It's called Porch Fest, and it's done on all of the old houses that have big porches, and it was very successful last year, and it's going to run again this year. So it's a great way to promote keeping the old porches the same, and it's a fun event.
Yes, it is. When will it be? Do you know?
The 17th of May, I believe.
Great. And class, would you like to contribute anything?
The only contribute, Dorothy, is my involvement with this committee. I will pass on to the Atlanta County Heritage Committee, that our Archives Committee that I'm also on, and keep them informed as to what this committee is doing.
Okay, thank you. Chris?
So thanks, Dorothy. Yeah, welcome. This is awesome. I'm glad to finally get a meeting going and got some new faces. I think this is the biggest group I've ever seen during my MHC time. So really excited to see the Heritage Conservation District in the strategic plan. I hope that makes it to the final edit. And yeah, it'd be interesting to get a look at the library renovation soon, because that'll be another. It's not very often we get a heritage building that's renovated with a professional architect. So I don't know, going to be an exciting term, I think. So happy to be here.
Thank you, Chris. Tony?
Two things. First of all, somebody mentioned Perth, so I'll kick in about Perth. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but this is, I guess, the importance of having a municipal heritage committee that works. The oldest building in Perth is being demolished by a developer at this time. It was the Red Tavern. It was used by the British officers. It was as a meeting hall and a drinking place. I think it was constructed in 1826. And if you notice going into Perth, it's being demolished. Very sad. The other thing is, Carl, how do we make out on Main Street? There was a, I forget the addresses, but they had got a temporary permit or temporary easement that they could go from commercial to residential. And I think it was for 2 years, and that was 5 years ago. How's that? What's the status on that?
So with I believe you're referring to a property that had a temporary zoning provision that was associated with it. That temporary zoning, as you mentioned, expired. So at this point, there is no zoning permission for residential occupancy once that zoning expires. So typically when we have nothing has crossed my desk in terms of any enforcement action. Typically, those are implemented on a case-by-case basis, but we can certainly look into that for you, Tony.
Well, it's just, I always remember that statement we had at the seminar that time is when you start letting losing your commercial in your downtown core and it goes to residential, it's the it's the beginning of the end for your downtown core. I always remember those words. So that's why I brought it up, Carl. Anyway, welcome everybody. Nice meeting everybody at last.
Thanks, Tony. Mary Ann, do you have anything to offer?
No, I think I'll be playing a few months or many months of catching up. But Tony, I do understand that the Red House in Perth is being moved.
It's
We
going,
have, is it not going into the college, onto the college campus?
as I understand, it's going into containers
Really?
being stored. Yes.
Is the owner of the Red House did speak at the symposium, at the conference. And at that point, it had been sold. He hadn't informed us of that, but I had read somewhere that it was being numbered and going to be reconstructed over at the, shouldn't be moved in the first place, but okay, I just wondered about that. I'll be quiet for now. You,
Are we-
I will stay quiet, Mr. Tony.
Are we talking about that house right on Highway 43 as you're coming up to the
Yeah.
light? Just
Yeah.
boards? Okay.
Yeah,
I have
built like the headquarters for the army when the army went there after the War of 1812, when they first started to settle Perth.
It's a shocking sight. Well, it's just sitting there like that, and I've been wondering what was going on. So now I know. That's great. I'm wondering also, it crossed my mind, are there any updates on the water treatment plant or what might be happening or not happening there? Is there any information on that, Carl?
I don't have any at this point, Dorothy. Mary, do you have any update on that?
No, sorry, I do not.
Chris?
Yeah, council gave a 9-month extension for the proposal to come in, so there's no progress yet, but in the next 9 months, we should see something, so.
It seems like I'm always nagging about the water treatment plant, but it's very concerning. That Mary?
Sorry, just one final thing for your roundtable. So as some of you were able to attend, Wayne from Community Heritage Ontario did provide an orientation. As Dorothy may have noted to some of you, it was quite detailed. It was very good, especially with all the changes to the Act with Bill 23. We did pause because we were hitting our cap at the Heritage Conservation District, and not all members were able to attend, and we felt that that was going to be a hot topic. I am trying to arrange an orientation to go over the rest of it with Wayne. He has unfortunately run into some health issues with a family member, and he's not able to be as responsive as he is a volunteer. So I just wanted to keep the committee in the loop that I am diligently pursuing that, but I'm trying to be respectful at the same time.
Thank you. Mary Ann?
Just putting on my other hat. Elizabeth Town Kitley, I believe right now we are in communication too with CHO to have a presentation, to have that presentation for them to come to us for the MHCs that are within the area. So if we can't get Wayne to do it with us that way, maybe we can all, I think we're going to hold it at the Toledo Legion. We don't have a date or anything yet. We're just in talks with them. They've done it for us before and we're asking them to come again.
Okay, good. Good. Chris?
Yeah, I had a request to get that posted on the town's YouTube page. Is that something we could do?
Oh,
I can check with CHO, but my understanding is they actually asked for a recording anyways because they want to publicize this themselves. So I don't see anything wrong with it, but I'm happy to ask that permission so we can facilitate that, Chris.
Awesome. Yeah, the more people that can see it and understand what's going on and the issues with Bill 23, the better.
And I didn't ask you, Carl, do you have a final word for roundtable?
Well, I'd just like to welcome everybody to the committee and welcome back to the committee, Mary Ann and Klaas. I'm really glad to have you on board, and Lorraine, really glad to have you back as a public member as well. And Dorothy, Jenny, Tony, and Chris, look forward to working with all of you over the next while, and hopefully meeting in person soon.
Mhm.
thank you.
Thank you, Carl. So our next meeting is scheduled for May 24th at 4:30 PM. So we have moved to the fourth Wednesday of every month at 4:30. And I'd like to thank everybody. And it's wonderful to be back in business. Tony?
Just a side note, if you're looking for a meeting place, I can offer the dining car at the Railway Museum.
I didn't get it clean today.
Well,
I was
it'll be
gonna-
clean by then.
I was doing date nails. I don't know.
Well, we can
Thank-
have our committee meeting, subcommittee meeting there then, Tony, can't we? That would be great. Yeah,
It holds,
Yeah.
it's good for 20 people.
good.
So it's got the dining car, Tony, with food included?
If Chris forwards his credit card, yes.
Okay, so let's have a movement to adjourn, a motion to adjourn, I mean. Chris,
I
thank
told,
you.
okay.
So the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.